I mean, you gotta say, this is pretty sleek. Hey guys, it's cold, miserable and windy outside. It's the winter in UK, which means it's good for a change to look at something made for indoors. And we are going to talk about Winis, I don't know how you want to pronounce it, but we're gonna look at this IP camera, which is pretty cool. It looks more like a webcam on the first glance than an IP camera, but it is in fact a wireless IP camera. And I really like the design. There is a simple stand with magnetic ball joint to which you can attach the camera and move it around up and down at 45-degree angles, allowing you to position the camera anywhere you want. I mean, simple and effective, right? Well, there is a but I'm gonna come to that in a moment. The camera is using 1080p sensor to capture images and videos. It has two-way audio, built-in micro SD card slot, and it has an integrated infrared-based night mode with 4 LED lights to illuminate the area at night. Just like most of IP cameras, this camera also connects to 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi. Fortunately, 5 GHz isn't supported. I've mentioned there is a but, so let's address it quickly. You know that really clever design that I praised earlier? Well, it's ruined by inclusion of very stiff USB cable. Now this is a micro USB cable. Why it's not USB Type-C? Please guys, can we move on already? And whenever connected to the camera, it actually drags the camera behind and makes the orientation of the camera itself very difficult. But what's worse, other than lack of the USB Type-C connector, is the fact that it comes with a 90-degree bend which acts like a lever. And there is a reason why I have two cameras, because on my first go I wasn't careful enough and you pulled on a cable too harshly and I snapped the USB port from PCB. I don't know whether I was more careful with the second unit, but so far it works just fine and the USB is attached to the slot. In the meantime, I managed to fix the first unit as well, but you get the point. And all of that could be fixed with the inclusion of a nice bendy cable like this. I mean, obviously not the one with USB Type-C, but I'm going to link a proper one in the description of this video alongside the links to these cameras. So what they are like in use. To pair it, you have to use AI.app from the Play Store, and the pairing instructions are simple. This camera has a speaker and will guide you with English voice prompts. Nice and simple. Once you get into the app, you'll be greeted by familiar screens for multiple cameras, couple of extra devices, automation panel, and the camera settings. So let's start with video and audio. I had to be honest with you guys, it's been a month since I've been using this camera, and I initially submitted some feedback to the company, letting them know that the recording of the footage from the camera is broken and features a lot of compression when you're trying to store the footage on the mobile. 2 updates and 1 firmware update later, we are finally here where I can talk about the product and, well, frankly speaking, that performance should be available on the launch. Anyway, the camera is working now, so let's take at the footage itself. As you can see, apart from occasional artifact coming from compression, the footage is pretty decent, although I have to say that it is decent in a nice lighting conditions. The camera sensor suffers a little bit from low dynamic range, which means if you're gonna point it through the window at something really bright with deep shadows, you're either gonna end up with overexposed image or very black shadows. I know this is a camera that is advertised for indoor use, and when used in an indoor situation, obviously you're not going to have this problem because, for the most part, indoors areas are better illuminated with a more uniform lighting. The nighttime performance is pretty decent. You'll see familiar black and white images thanks to infrared sensor and 4 LEDs that will illuminate the area. They work great for enclosed areas and not too bad actually when you point the camera through the, well, outside the window and try to capture some footage. But the actual highlight of this camera is two-way audio, even though that the speaker that is built in is tiny and it doesn't look that impressive.
And as the camera comes with two-way audio, you can have a conversation with whoever is behind the camera. In this case, with myself. So if you want to know how does it sound from the other side, or how you come across through this camera, listen to this.
Can you hear me okay? I think you should be able to hear me okay, and I set the
such a small device, this is actually pretty good quality. All those pictures and videos have to be stored somewhere, and you have two options. First, you can use a local storage, thanks to inclusion of a SD card, micro SD card slot up to 64 gigs. That's a lot of footage, especially if you record them in an event-only mode. There is also available cloud, priced at right now $199 for unlimited event storage for a month, and you can access that through the app as well. Now, unfortunately, there is no option for real-time streaming protocol, so you won't be able to export these files easily to your own NVR server. Now, what makes it worse is the fact that the files are stored in .ts format, which makes them, well, pretty much unreadable anywhere else apart from the app. Another complaint in that department is when you're trying to record footage to share it with someone else. In order to do it, you actually have to find the clip and record it manually, so wait through entire clip duration to have it available on your mobile. I wish there was an option to select a clip and export it instead of waiting entire clip duration while holding record. I mean, that's a bit of a pointless activity. Another annoyance in that department is how footage is stored, especially when the continuous recording is selected. Instead of having a timeline that's going to highlight motion triggers, you have a calendar view, which then is split into hour view. And then once you click on it, you'll be greeted with a list of minute-by-minute thumbnails, which is very difficult to browse in my opinion. It gets a little bit better with event recording, which the clips are limited to 15 seconds each time something moves in front of the camera, because you're only going to see the events where something actually happened in front of the camera. Speaking of event recording, you have a couple of options here. You can use AI-powered features to either detect human or pets. Unfortunately, I didn't have pets to present to the camera, but I do have a human, including me, to test their sensitivity. And while recording my presence indoors wasn't a problem, when I was pointing the camera outside and using the biggest sensitivity for faraway objects, well, I did not manage to recognize myself. Which means if you want to record stuff outside, you're probably best to disable pet and human recording and stick to motion events instead, if you want to have a chance of capturing a footage. I mean, the camera is advertised for indoor use, so I guess they optimized the algorithm that way. Additionally, if you look through event filters on a cloud playback, you'll notice additional filters like discovering vehicles or packages or parcel couriers people. Is that a word? Anyway, so that looks pretty promising, even though these features aren't supporting for this particular camera, but they offer a couple of different models, and hopefully that's going to be implemented to all the cameras in that ecosystem. Lastly, if you're getting too many notifications, you can also select the zones, which will activate and push notifications. That way, you're only going to be notified about events happening in the zones of interest. Another cool thing is device linking, which means once one camera is activated, all of them will start recording, giving you access to footage from all of your cameras at the same time. It's very useful if you just want to find out what happened and have a glance over around surrounding area. Show office camera 4.
Okay.
I've also tested Alexa functionality, and I found that with my show device, the feed from the camera appeared within about 5 to 8 seconds, which is standard. There was about 5 to 8 seconds as well of delay, which makes it a little bit difficult to have a conversation over the camera. It's not impossible, but you know, it's not perfect in that regard. But if you just want to check out the footage over your smart device, well, it works pretty great. This camera is available in UK for $59.99, and that's a lot to pay for the camera of this type without super extra features. Now, considering the competition from Reolink or Emo, the customer is gonna require a little bit of more swaying to fish out that much money for this camera. So if you're interested, in the description of this video you're gonna find a link to this camera in particular and some good USB cables to make it usable. As for now, guys, you know what happened? I do not have a posting schedule, so if you're interested what's next, well, you know how YouTube works, I'm not going to explain all of that, but Do follow me on social media and leave me comments, especially with links in there, because YouTube likes to, well, suspend them and I don't have access to them, so sorry about that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye!